Children of Morta is a game that was developed by Mage Studios and was published through 11-bit Studios. Funded and backed by people via Kickstarter, this game became one of the games like many others that gained my attention. From what I saw over the years, the game experienced some cosmetic design changes within its visuals, such as the layout of options and also changes to the user interface during gameplay. However, in spite of all these changes, the core elements that this game was built upon remain for the most part the same. On September 3rd, 2019, this game was released for PC via Steam and was later ported to consoles on October 15, 2019. I'll be reviewing the PlayStation 4 version, so let's get into this review. The Children of Morta is about and centered around the dyxnt family, a family composed of warriors, mages, archers, scientists, and other types that you can imagine from a fantasy RPG. This family lives in harmony with the land they reside in, known as the land of Morta. This land is watched over and kept in balance due to the watchful eyes of the guardians or gods of this land. That is, until the entity known as the corruption comes to disturb this balance and put what was once a peaceful land into chaos. Seeing this event occurring, the dyxnt family prepares themselves to face off against this corruption, while at the same time trying to understand its origins and why all of a sudden it has attacked and affected the creatures in this land. In between battling the corruption and discovering the clues to where it came from, the bonds that each family member holds in relation to each other are explored, along with the values of what holds the family together. Holy shit, this game looks good. Alright, so Children of Morta looks very detailed with its beautiful pixel art from the moment that you boot up the game all the way down to the first moment that you see its story segments. It's kinda hard to deny all the hard work that was put into this game's appearance. Perfectly crafted in such a fantasy world is something that only creators with vision and imagination can pull off, and the creators of this game knocked it out the park. From the gameplay even all the way down to the segments that happen randomly, looks engrossing and also helps pull at your heartstrings when certain plots of the story is unraveled. A perfect example of how beautiful this game looks can always be seen looking at the dyxnt estate. Everything is so vibrant with a sense of movement. Looking at your relatives indulging their hobbies, seeing items and creatures move around, all of it has life. Then when you look outside, the nice backdrop that looks like a cosmic planetary theme looks just beautiful as well. As you play this game, you see this land slowly transition due to the effects of the corruption. Through this visual, it's relayed how urgent it is to stop the corruption from progressing. How this game utilizes a combination of vibrant colors is nothing short of eye candy. It's captivating and is one of the elements that probably attracted me along with others who have purchased this game. The music for Children of Morta sounds like it came straight from Middle Earth, a little inside joke if you're familiar with the Lord of the Rings. But anyway, the music was done by Mage and Sonari and perfectly sets the atmosphere. Majority of the songs on the soundtrack share this somewhat plucking of the strings and rhythmic sections of string instruments, making them the main focus of majority of these songs. Two of my favorite songs are Solitude and In Search for Her. In Solitude, the swelling of the notes in combination with the faint but glory choir section in the background provides the atmosphere and satisfaction this game is married to. In the song In Search for Her, every time that kick drum comes in, it sounds like a giant is making a footstep. Slow but very present and impactful. You can pick up this game's soundtrack wherever digital music is sold. Links will be in the description if you're interested in picking it up. The sound design of Children of Morta is superb. When characters attack and enemies are nearby, the sound cues they give is something that you'll grow accustomed to. For example, like how these grunts are always chuckling whenever they're on screen. When doing certain attacks, hearing this impact sounds satisfying as well. Whenever a character is moving on screen, the sound quality depending on what they're doing can be heard clearly, such as breaking pottery, the sound of unlocking a basement, or when you're entering a door and so on. But one of the staples of this game has to go to the narrator, whose voice clearly has a way of getting the player's attention.
Would their decision bring even more of the mountain god's corrupted wrath upon them?
The narrator does a nice job at providing exposition to the world's lore and story segments of the game.
And saw her smile, resolve, and belief in a better future would ease their worry.
Children of Morta is a dungeon crawler roguelike game where you play as multiple members of the Dyxnt family. Each has their own unique way of fighting off the corruption and possesses their own unique fighting styles complemented with the weapon that each of them use. What each member of the family have at their disposal are the standard attacks that utilize a powerful form of magic that has a cooldown period afterwards, and also a rage form that increases the overall damage and speed when entered into this form. The last ability that each of them have are abilities that are more so specifically catered to the individual person. Each member have their own strengths and weaknesses that you gotta be aware of. For example, John utilizes a sword and shield and is what you would usually expect from a dungeon crawler, but he is a tad bit slow and isn't great when it comes to long range combat. Then on the other hand you have Linda, which is in some ways more agile and utilizes projectiles with her bow and arrow, making it ideal for certain enemies who are only best at close quarters combat. Of course, when first playing this game, the player will probably already have their favorite go-to character, and that may prove to be a bit of a downfall. You see, when you get to a certain part of the game, the corruption infects the character that has been utilized the most. This results into that character having their mass health being depleted over time. This gaming mechanic will indirectly force the player to become accustomed to playing with other members of the family. This may seem a bit of a drag, but ultimately it will grant you rewards and upgrades that will flow into all other members of the Dyxnt family. And as the old saying goes, the chain is only as strong as its weakest link. I would advise leveling up each member evenly so to not have one member bearing all the burden. Speaking of leveling up in Children of Morta, you level up a character like you would do in any RPG, which is simply by defeating your enemies. The more enemies you defeat, the yellow gauge depicting your experience will become fuller with every defeated enemy. Once it's filled to capacity, a picture that looks like an Egyptian hieroglyph of a bird would appear in the middle of the screen, damaging or even killing other enemies that are currently on screen. Afterwards, you are granted with a skill gem that will be used in upgrading the abilities of your character. Most of these upgrades have 3 levels to them. When you continue to upgrade your character, the rest of your family are entitled to some nice powers as well the more consistently you do this. The next thing that is equally as important as gaining experience doing your runs in a dungeon is accumulating Morv, which serves as its game currency. Back at the Dyxnt stage, which serves as the hub world for this game, you can buy upgrades that will be applied to all family members. There is also something called the Book of Red that further upgrades all the Dyst's performance, but you will have to unlock those by discovering them in the various dungeons. Personally, I would advise you to max out Hoarder and Wisdom once you unlock them. Hoarder increases the amount of Morv you receive per level, and Wisdom increases the experience that you will obtain per kill. Maxing out these 2 things will make things go a lot smoother, not to mention quicker in trying to obtain more upgrades. Other items that you will come across while doing your runs in the dungeons are health potions that are used to heal you, and also soul gems that are used to open up chests like boxes to give you some nice rewards. There are also items known as runes that will definitely help you out by adding attributes and buff statuses to your character, along with other items known as obelisks that does the very same thing but is temporary and goes away after a amount of time has passed. When you lose all your health, you're transported back to the Dyxnt state. You lose your obelisks and runes, but thankfully enough your experience gain will be retained along with your Morv. Your minimap, which is located over here, is your best friend. Items like your health will show up red, obelisks are these small totems, and runes will show up yellow, and of course the bosses at the end of each segment will be this demonic skull. Keep this in mind during your travels. A few things to know when navigating the procedurally generated dungeons is that the number of levels will always be presented here, and at the end of every dungeon is a boss battle. Taking the time out to explore every nook and cranny of a level can be very helpful and help break up the monotonous, repetitive nature of simply just doing a run, dying and doing it all over again. Certain random events may transpire, for example, protecting people, having another Dyxnt come in as a cameo to help you on the mission, grandma unlocking more books of rares, chasing weird chickens, playing minigames, and unlocking shops, just to name a few. Then when you get to the end of the segment of a level, you will come across this emblem. Once you do, you can explore other areas that you haven't yet, and return back here at any time once this emblem shows up on your screen. Now, the enemies that you will find in this game all kinda have their own power levels to them, which is recognized by the color of their auras. The enemies with no auras around them are just the normal ones. There's nothing really special about these guys. The monsters with the yellow aura are a bit tougher and can create hazards such as pools of poison, spaces that can paralyze you, and other obstacles. The last type of enemies are the enemies with the red auras, and these are the toughest ones to come in contact with. They hit hard and can make meteors come out of the sky and hit you for whatever reason. If you get hit by these meteors, you will be stunned, making you open for any punishment them and their friends will dish out to you. But with everything that is said, I'm going to give this game a solid 8 out of 10. The story is not that complicated. Aesthetically, this game is gorgeous, but after a few hours, things can feel a tad bit repetitive. The gameplay is really nice and does a fine job of making the player become versatile with each character. This game is only like $22 and is available for Steam, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and a Nintendo Switch. This game is worth more than for the price it's asking for. If you like dungeon crawlers, role-playing games, and adventure titles, it's kinda like the classic Zelda or even the hyper-light Drifter game. I would recommend picking this one up. Since its release, it's been teased that more features will be added to the base game in the foreseeable future in 2020. A new game plus, a new playable character, online co-op, and many other things will be free. Also, a brand new chapter has been stated as an expansion and will serve as the only thing that you'll have to pay for. Since completing this game, returning to the land of Morta would definitely be a treat. Be on the lookout, y'all. Peace.